Okay, everyone, it's officially 8:30. Let's grab our seats and settle down so we can have some fun tonight. My name is Ron. I'm an alcoholic. A couple quick announcements. There's some great events going on. What is that? The Cape May Roundup that's now in Atlantic City. It's on our website. If you follow our group, we have a Facebook page. Keep you connected. We'll update that. I think it's the 26th or something, 28th. That's pretty eventful. And we always got great stuff going on. Next week, to follow up, we got a great speaker tonight. Also, every week we do, but next week, one of the chapters in the book is called Window of Opportunity. And the gentleman's story that's in the big book is speaking here. It's pretty powerful. The big book comes alive. And, all the stories that we read, I know it was impactful to me to meet a person that's actually got a story in there, because a lot of times they're like, who writes this stuff? And he's got a really powerful message also. So we look forward to that. Our group has purchased over 500 big books lately, just in the last month and a half, and we distribute them at treatment centers. Thanks to all your donations, contributions, and support, we've been able to do this on a regular basis. We're able to give away a lot of big books, and they're very needed anymore in treatment centers and in all different facilities. They're not really giving people the opportunity to recover and any directions at all. So if you're interested in every Sunday night we have a treatment center commitment, 7 p.m. It's in Quakertown. Good group of people up there that need a message of hope. We'll be up there this Sunday. We're there every Sunday. We need 2 or 3 people. There's no time requirement. If you just want to come up and share your experience, they tend to be more receptive to people that are newly sober. So if you're thinking like you only got 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months or something like that, it's very powerful, because when you're sitting in a detox or rehab, it's hard to conceive of years, let alone decades. Anyway, with that, we got the world's greatest chairperson. Let's welcome Nick. Let's have some fun.
Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Nick, and I'm an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting. It meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m., followed by our speaker at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Yes, sir.
I'm alcoholic.
Hey, Doug, welcome. Yes. Welcome. Hi, Aaron. Welcome. Yes, sir. Welcome, both of you. Yes. Welcome. Yes, sir. Hey, Ian, welcome. Excellent. Well, welcome to everybody. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hand. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? We have a sister group. It's a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street, Doylestown, PA. Coffee is on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Book and CD Donations, and all CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page to keep informed and share upcoming events and meetings. And now with that, I have Brian to come up and read the Just for Today Prayer of Recovery.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian, and I am an alcoholic. This is a reading just for today, a prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and do not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, Mia is going to come up here. She is going to read the AA preamble.
Hello, hi, I'm Mia, and welcome. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I have Kara to come up and read the AA 12 Steps of Recovery.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kara. I'm alcoholic. The AA 12 Steps of Recovery. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Number 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made a direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory, and we were wrong, properly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Now Nick will come up and introduce our speaker tonight.
The 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'd like to pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees. We do have expenses. And this group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops. Do not forget to get your AA swag. We have our hoodies here on Easter sale. They are free with a $22 donation. Okay. There's absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And now to introduce the speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Tonight we have Chad P. from New Jersey, from the Design for Living Group of Neptune, New Jersey. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Chad Payne, I'm alcoholic. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. I've only been up here a couple years, and I usually apologize to people that I'm speaking to that you have to listen to this country accent for an hour, but I have a double apology tonight. I'm also sorry that you have to listen to this voice. I'm recovering from a little bit of a head cold, and I sound like I'm croaking like a frog. We just read at Easter dinner before I came here, and my nephew kept telling me, he was kind of laughing, but he was kind of scared. He kept telling me to stop using my scary voice, and he said I sound like a dinosaur. That was pretty cute. Yeah, my home group is it's a new home group for me, the Design for Living group in Neptune, New Jersey. And I thought that I was going to have to come up here from Texas and fix AA, and well, I'm the only one that's ever thought that. Come on. And I can tell you AA is alive and well up here, and you guys are really doing some good work. Thank you for asking me to come do this, Ron. It's an honor to get to come talk to you guys. I've been sober since April the 2nd of 2003. All right, I'm going to give you a minute. Did you do the math? That means this week I picked up 20 years. That's pretty cool, huh? I really just feel old now, 10 was cool, 20's like, God, really? 20 years been doing this? Yeah. Well, let's do an AA talk. On page, I think it's page 29. Let me make sure. Yeah, on page 29 in our big book, it says each individual in the personal stories describes in his own language and from his own point of view the way he established his relationship with God. So that's my job up here tonight. I'm going to talk to you guys in my own language and from my own point of view about the way this relationship with God was established. And I can tell you this, it didn't happen when I walked in AA. It didn't happen when I took a third step or had the spiritual awakening. This relationship has been developing since way before I ever knew it was going on. There were a series of events that led me to seek this relationship with God. And I remember I had this girlfriend years ago who was not in recovery, and she was a church-going Christian woman, and taking me along to church with her, and we were talking about God one night, and I said, so what happened? I knew she'd been through a tough divorce, and I said, so what happened? What was it that caused you to seek this relationship with God that you have today? And she said, what do you mean? I was like, well, kind of what happened in your life that kind of made you turn that corner and really, really seek God? And she said, nothing. It's just what I've always done. What? I mean, I had to have the crap beat out of me to seek a relationship with God. That was nowhere ever on the radar for me. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about here in the beginning, is what happened throughout my life that humbled me to the point to where I was willing to follow some directions that you guys were giving me to do something that I didn't think was going to work anyway. So it's kind of at the beginning, I was a pretty good kid starting out. I did pretty well in school. I made good grades, played sports, had friends. I come from what I call a loving but dysfunctional family. I know they love me, but, well, let me just put it this way. Out of 6 of us, 5 of us either are currently or at some time in the past have been members of 12-step fellowships. So 5 out of 6. That's not bad, right? And the one that's not, I'm kind of hoping, there's a seat for him somewhere. So I come from a family of alcoholism, and I don't think that I was abused. I had a therapist tell me one time I was abused, and I think that word is overused sometimes, but I know that alcoholism had a huge effect on my family and had a huge effect on me growing up. But as a kid, I was doing pretty good growing up in the 80s, and I would say around 6th or 7th grade, something started to happen. I started to get pretty uncomfortable. I started to get these thoughts running through my head that things like, you're not good enough, you don't fit in, nobody really likes you, they're talking about you when you leave, they really wish you weren't here. I started wishing I was more like this guy or that guy, and thinking that if I could just be like this, then I'd be okay. And I was having a lot of those thoughts. I didn't know it was any different than anybody else, and they came up on me slowly. It came up. It's not like that just happened all of a sudden one day, and I didn't even know it at the time. I just know it now looking back. I know that was going on, and it's. I went on a backpacking trip, a solo backpacking trip a couple summers ago, and I was up on a mountain in New Mexico. And I had the weirdest experience. I was crying, and And I had this realization that, like, since I was a little kid, this voice that's been talking to me in my head telling me I'm not enough, I saw it as if there were like this father figure following me around saying, God, I wish you were more like this. You know, if you were only like this kid, then you'd be okay. You know, and I just had this realization that that's been with me all my life. It's nothing today like it was, like it used to be. But somewhere along the way, it wasn't 6th or 7th grade, it's a couple years later, but I stumbled upon the answer for that. And you guys know what that answer is. You know, I drank a few beers, just enough to get that feeling, and that introduced me to the solution for the next few years, the solution to anything that I was struggling with. Alcohol was an amazing gift for me. It did things for me that I didn't even know I needed. All I knew at the time was drinking was a lot of fun. That's all I knew. It was a lot of fun. I knew from the first time I did it that this was going to become number one in my life. My life was going to totally shift directions and be all about drinking and partying and chasing girls and getting in fights and having all that kind of fun. What I understand today that I didn't understand then is that life is awesome. But I couldn't experience life because I was trapped in this thing. And this thing kept me from experiencing life. But when I drank, I got free of this. And I got to be present and experience life with you as it is. You know, when I was drinking, I wasn't so concerned with all the things that had happened yesterday or the day before and that stupid thing that I said. I wasn't worried about what was going to happen in the future. I didn't care if I fit in with you. As a matter of fact, as far as I was concerned, you were fortunate to get to hang out with me. That's what alcohol did for me. You know, it totally changed my life. And it was great. And if you listen to a lot of AA speakers, which I assume you guys do since you do this every week, you're going to hear that story over and over, right? I was very uncomfortable and alcohol did some things for me, and then I felt good. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that's not what makes me alcoholic. A lot of us have that in common. But I can tell you this, man, I was a high school teacher at one. I was a teacher at one of those schools where you go when you get kicked out of your school. You guys know that? You're like, yeah, that's where I went. Yeah. I always have a lot of those. Yeah, that was a lot of fun working with it. And I tell you what, man, a lot of the kids had the same experience. They were uncomfortable being a teenager. They got a little substance in their body, you know, smoke a joint, drink a beer, take a pill, whatever it may be. And then suddenly they feel much better about themselves and have a good time, right? Are they all alcoholic? Some are. But no, they're not. So if that's not what makes me alcoholic, that common experience that so many of us have, what is it that makes me alcoholic? And, you know, I like the steps here on the wall, but my favorite version of the first step is right here on page 30. It says, we learned. Who's we? In this book, we is the founders. That's like say about 100 members when they were writing the book. I think historians have now said that Bill might have been stretching it just a bit, but somewhere around 100 or maybe a few less members. This is what we learned. We, these members, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently may be has to be smashed. Well, there's a lot going on there. I got to fully concede to my innermost self that I'm alcoholic. That's the first step in recovery. And until that happens, nothing else is really going to happen. It's not going to have any long-term effect anyway. So what does it mean to fully concede? I have to look a lot of these words up, and I'm a big book nerd. I got a 1936 Webster's Dictionary. Because I don't just want to know what the word means. I want to know what the word meant when they were writing the big book, you know. If you're a big book nerd like me and you don't have one, you're going, oh, I got to get one of those. You can get them on eBay, man. I think I got mine for like $8. To fully concede means to surrender. Means to surrender, right? We talk about that a lot in recovery. Well, there's a lot of surrenders. Have you guys ever seen those bookmarks that like have like a principle for each step? And you'll hear people say, what is the principle behind the step? Like step, I don't know what they are. They're different. I don't know. But personally, if I designed my own, it would say step 1, surrender. Step 2, surrender. Step 3, surrender. Step 4, surrender. They're all about surrender as far as I'm concerned. What do we surrender in the first step? Well, I've got to surrender to this idea that I'm alcoholic, and it's got to be this surrender to my innermost self, like a deep level surrender. How do you know if I fully conceded something? Don't ask me, because I'll tell you what I think, which is often wrong. If you want to know if I've fully conceded, if I've surrendered, watch me. Watch me, because you'll see me consistently doing things I don't want to do. All right? So I've got to fully concede to my innermost self that I'm alcoholic. Okay. People were talking to me about the importance of understanding what it means to be alcoholic, and it seems so trivial to me. It's like, I'm obviously alcoholic. How do you show up in AA if you're not alcoholic? It's not the point. The point is, until I truly understand my condition, I'm not really going to be invested in doing the things you're asking me to do. I'm going to do some picking and choosing. I'm not going to do the things that look really hard unless I really understand the seriousness of my condition. And I raised my hand and said, my name's Chad, I'm alcoholic, at many meetings. And if you were to say, I knew I had to be one. If there was such a thing as an alcoholic, I must be one. If you saw the way that I drank, obviously. But if you were to say, Chad, so what does it mean to be alcoholic? I would have given you some of my experience, but I didn't have a real good answer. And I need to have a real good answer, not only for my own sake, but for when I'm carrying the message to somebody walking in. So what is it that makes me? If it's not that I'm so uncomfortable in my own skin and alcohol fixes that problem, if that's not it, then what is it? What is it that makes me alcoholic? Well, the first thing, there's two things. The first thing is I have an alcohol problem. And as a big book thumper, I've gone around a lot of times telling new guys, alcohol's not your problem. And they're going, what? Well, let me just put it this way. The alcohol problem is not my biggest problem, but it's damn sure a problem. And what is my problem with alcohol? Just overdo it. Once I take a couple of drinks, I lose control. I don't know what's going to happen next. You know, sometimes it might look like my intentions are to go hit happy hour with my coworkers, have a couple beers, you know, and then go on home after happy hour, which never seems to last a full hour to me. It goes so fast. 2 go down really easy. The third one goes down really smooth. The 4th and 5th one, now we're not even in happy hour anymore, and I'm making a phone call and telling a lie. Next thing I know, the bar's closed and I'm wondering where the party is. Sometimes that's what it looks like. I meant to have 2 and I overdid it, you know. But that's not always what it looked like for me. Sometimes I'd look you right in the eye and I'd say, man, let's get drunk. Right? It wasn't always only going to have 2 and overdid it. Sometimes it was, let's get drunk. And they talk about that in the book. It says here, in some circumstances, we've gone out deliberately to get drunk. I went out deliberately to get drunk on a regular basis. It goes on to say, but even in this type of beginning, we are obliged to admit that our justification for a spree was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happened. We now see that when we began to drink deliberately instead of casually, there was little serious or effective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be. That's a lot of big words, but here's what that means to me. I might tell you, hey man, let's go to the bar tonight, we're going to get drunk. We'll have some fun. Right? When really what I should say is, hey, let's go to the bar and I'm going to get way too drunk way too fast and I'm going to hit on your girlfriend and you're going to beat me up and they're going to throw me out of the bar and I'm going to hop in my truck and peel out and hit a parked car and get pulled over and thrown in jail and lose my job and get kicked out of the house. How's that sound? Because what happens for me is once I put it in my system, I lose control. I don't know what's going to happen next. I develop a phenomenon of craving, as Dr. Silkworth calls it. and anything that stands in the way of me drinking, I go through it, go around it, or whatever. And the big problem for me a lot of times was going home meant stopping drinking. So going home got out of the question. I'll tell you a little story about that. I worked construction. I traveled a lot, on the road, working in power plants and refineries and things like that. And I'd come off a job, and that day, and me and my wife and my daughter in the living room, we're watching a movie. My daughter's probably a year old, just a baby playing on the floor. And on this night, my wife and I are getting along, which is rare. And the reason that's rare is because when she got pregnant, we both made a commitment that we were going to straighten up. Because we got together because we partied together, right? We were a great match for each other. We didn't plan on having a baby, but we had one. And from the beginning of that pregnancy, as soon as she found out, we both said, okay, we're going to straighten up. We're going to leave all this partying behind. We're going to be good parents. And she did. And I meant to. I really did. But because I didn't fulfill that commitment, we fought all the time. But not tonight. Tonight we're getting along. She says, hey, Chad, it's getting late. I'm going to put Abby to bed. Why don't you go get us something to eat? When you get back, we'll finish watching this movie. Cool. Let's do that. So as I'm walking out the door, I turn back and look at her and say, I love you. I'll be home in 20 minutes. And you could have put a lie detector on me and said, Chad, you swear to God you're going to be home in 20 minutes? I said, absolutely, I swear. And I'd have passed with flying colors because my plan was to be home in 20 minutes. So I'm going to get tacos, right? That's a good supper for us, tacos. On the way, I get this idea, man, I got a pocket full of money off this job and I'm doing good. Tomorrow, when my wife, she's in college, she's taking some college classes. When she goes to school, I'll get my daughter up and get her ready and spend some quality time with her. And then I'll take her to daycare. And then I'll go pick up my buddy Michael. And, we'll go drink some beer. I got a big four-wheel drive truck. We'll drink some beer, get in some mud, shoot some guns. I don't know what you guys do for fun up here, but where I'm from, that's what we do. So that's the plan. But, I go get the tacos, and then on the way back, I better swing by his house and let him know I'm coming. I knock on his door, and he answers his door, and he's drinking. There's a party going on. He's like, come on in, bro. It's been a while. And I said, no, I got to go home. But I'm going to come pick you up tomorrow. And he says, cool, I'll be here. And then he says, well, just come in and say hi for a minute. Okay, I come in and say hi for a minute. While I'm in there, I have a drink. And I develop what Dr. Silkworth calls the phenomenon of craving. I don't know that's what's happening, but that's what's happening. Next thing I know, it's midnight. My truck's still running. I got tacos in it. My thought is, oh no. Well, I can't go home now, because if I go home now, I'll be in big trouble. If that sounds like good logic to you, you might be in the right room. Truth is, had I gone home then, I probably could have salvaged something out of that. But I didn't. And next thing you know, man, we've pulled an all-nighter. It's daylight. I'm telling my buddy Michael, man, we gotta get out of here. She's gonna come find me. Somebody's gonna call the cops. It's gonna be a bad scene. So we leave, and my 20-minute trip to get tacos ends up taking about 2 weeks. And it's not like I come home in 2 weeks. It's like 2 weeks later, I get caught sneaking my golf clubs out of the garage at 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's where alcohol takes me. That's how I show up as a father and a husband. And she probably has to tell my daughter, yeah, your dad's off working again. Yeah. Well, there's a simple solution to that problem. If the problem's alcohol, stop drinking alcohol. That's easy. And if that works for you, you can go now. You don't need AA. Those of us who need AA, we have another problem. It's actually a bigger problem. The book refers to it as insanity. I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but if you're alcoholic, you got an alcohol problem and a mental problem. And it's a specific type of insanity, you know. It's, I mean, most of us, I won't say most, some of us are insane in lots of ways. But the insanity I'm talking about is that no matter how bad it got last time, no matter how many consequences I suffered, no matter how many good reasons I have to not pick up another drink, guess what I do? I pick up another drink. And it's a hard thing to understand because it always feels like I have a choice in the matter because nobody's forcing it down my throat. You know, I'm picking it up, drinking it myself. How many of you guys have ever relapsed and gone and apologized to people for picking up that drink? But it's okay. You can raise your hand if you want. Yeah. Yeah. That's apologizing for the wrong thing, you know. That's like someone with epilepsy apologizing for having a seizure, you know. That's what happens. If you have epilepsy, you have a seizure. If you're an alcoholic, you pick up a drink. That's what we do. But that's the tricky thing is we think we chose to do it. Well, maybe we did choose to do it. I don't know. But eventually I'm going to pick it up. Whether that's today or 2 weeks from now or a month from now. It depends on how bad the consequences were last time. How scared I am, right? And how far my illness has progressed, you know, because early on I could quit, man. I could quit and I could hang in there for a little while. At the end, I had no willpower. And I'll tell you kind of what that looks like for me. I had a bad wreck a few years before I got sober. I had a bad wreck. I was under the influence. I drove off the left side of the road and hit a tree. A boat arc tree. I don't know if you guys have boat arc trees up here, but it's the only thing they're used for is fence posts, and they're usually pretty small. This one was big, and I hit this thing at about 70 miles an hour. And, I spent about a month in the hospital. I had broken hip, pelvis, jaw, and shoulder, and was pretty messed up, busted up head. My big old dysfunctional family showed up. You know, I pushed them all out of my lives, but I was in the hospital for about a month, so they showed up, you know, and they were there for me. At one point, I think my dad had his wife and 2 ex-wives in the room with him at the same time. That's a pretty dysfunctional family. I'll tell you a little bit about my family. We had a lot of divorce, right? Like if you ask me how many brothers and sisters I have, like that's a tough question. I don't know who all counts, you know. I was telling a story one time and I said, yeah, it's tragic, man. My sister's brother had a wreck when he was 14 and he died in this wreck. And someone said, man, that is tragic. But I got to ask you something. I was like, what? And this person said, isn't your sister's brother your brother? I was like, well, no, she's a stepsister who was actually adopted, and this is her half-brother, so it's complicated. But this big old dysfunctional family, man, they showed up for me. They showed up at the hospital. I had surgery on my hip. My jaws were wired shut. And it was a life-changing experience for me. You know, I was serious now. I looked people in the eye, I said, man, I'm done living this way. Obviously, I have no control over my drinking and my partying and everything else that was going on. It's crazy. It's out of hand. I've been trying to manage this for so long and having zero success at it. You know, because there's 2 big surrenders that happen in the first step for a guy like me. The first surrender is I have to surrender this idea that I cannot manage my drinking. I can't, man. I try to do it different every time. I give up the keys. Try to drink this instead of that. Drink at home, not drink at home, whatever it may be, and I just can't manage it. Well, that brings on the second surrender, because now it's time to quit, and I try to quit on my own. Dang, can't do that either. You know, so I'm telling all these people, my family, especially my dad, man, my dad's crying. It's so uncomfortable. You know, I'm crying. Like, Dad, I swear to God, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm done. I'm done, you know. I'm going to fulfill my potential. I'm going to go back to school, get a job where I can stay home, be a father to my daughter, be a good family member again, do the right thing, pay everybody back. I'm going to do all that. But it starts with not drinking. I'm not drinking anymore. And everybody's so relieved, you know, like finally, Chad has hit bottom. This is the turning point for him. Yeah. Man, I'm in it. 2 days. That's how long I lasted. 2 days. I'm on a walker, trying to walk on a walker with a broken shoulder, which is really difficult. My jaws are wired shut. And I'm staying out all night drinking and partying. My wife left, took my daughter. I mean, it's about time, you know. Should have left a long time ago. We left, and I ended up homeless. And I mean, I quit drinking every day after that for a few years. You know, I was quitting all the time. I got no problem quitting drinking. I just can't stay quit, you know. I'd quit in the morning and start again in the evening, you know. And it just got worse and worse. And my mom, she's the, you know, before I get into that, there's one thing I want to talk about. I talked about this in the beginning, and I need to elaborate on it. It's so important that we understand what it means to be alcoholic. It's so important. Because what I knew when I came in here is I was drunk. I knew that I was saying I was an alcoholic, but I didn't really understand what that meant. What I really was saying is I'm a drunk. And there's a big difference. You know, the difference in a drunk and an alcoholic is a game changer. Because until I understand that difference, I'm not willing to really do what it takes to recover over the long term. I might do it for a little while. So what is the difference? What is the difference? Here's the difference. A drunk has a problem. An alcoholic doesn't have an answer. See, as long as I think I got a problem, there's a thought that follows that says, well, when it gets bad enough, then we'll take care of it. That I'll get a handle on this tomorrow. But when I finally realize that I'm alcoholic, that I don't have an answer, your answer starts to sound a lot better. But as long as I think I have an answer, I'm not doing that stuff. I'll do some of it. But there are some of those things on there, especially like that one under number 9, that I'm not interested in doing until I'm thoroughly convinced that I don't have an answer for this thing. So, Mom, the Al-Anon of the family, she organized an intervention for my brother. And got him a bed in a treatment center. And he walked out. He's like, man, I'm out here. Forget this. So, you know, she's resourceful. So she was like, you know, I've already got the bed in the treatment center. I might as well try Chad. I mean, nobody thought I was going to, you know, they thought I was a lost cause. What they didn't realize is that I was in the best shape to go, you know. I was really desperate. So she got word out to me, because I wasn't in touch with my family. She got word out to me somehow that I had a paycheck waiting on me. She would meet me at such and such place and give me this paycheck. I mean, I really fell for one there because I hadn't had a job in a long time, you know. But on the slight chance that somehow I really needed the money, you know, and I showed up. Have any of you guys ever been a part of an intervention? Anybody ever done it? Okay, a few hands. Thank you for doing that. It's tough. I've been a part of a couple, and it's really tough. Like, this is a group of people who love me, but they're really tired of loving me. Like, their emotions are running, so like they're like, oh my God, I just hope he doesn't die, all the way to the other extreme, which is, I really kind of wish he would just hurry up and die. It's a really emotional thing, you know, for all those unfortunate enough to love me. And they wrote these letters and they showed up and it's a big inconvenience and they don't even know if I'm going to be there and they're trying to figure out how to keep me in the room but also tell me the truth. And I mean, it's just, they all came together and they did this for me. And I walked in that room and I saw them sitting in that circle of chairs with one chair open for me. And my first thought was, how could they do this to me? I got a question for you. Do you think that level of self-centeredness went away just because I quit drinking and showed up in AA? No. No, that's the kind of self-centeredness I brought to you. That's the kind of self-centeredness I brought into these 12 steps. It's all about me, and I don't even have time to think about how this affects you. Because I'm so consumed with me. I can't even see you. So they read me some letters, and I had all I could tell. I was like, no more letters. Look, no, I'll go. Just stop with the letters. You're like, so a couple of them were like, by God, I wrote this freaking letter. You're listening. I'm like, no, please, I'll go. You win. I got nowhere else to go. I spent most of my sobriety in Austin, Texas, and there's some really good treatment centers down there where they do a lot of clinical work, and they also immerse people in the 12 steps, get them in the big book. It's pretty cool. We didn't do that where I went to treatment. Where I went to treatment, let me just give you an idea what it was like. Where I went to treatment, I wrote my biggest resentment on a balloon and let it go. Don't even try it, it didn't work. Wouldn't it be cool? Like if you got your 4-step response, said, just get a pack of balloons and a Sharpie, man, you're going to love this. Like who comes up with that? I mean, come on. I still had to write inventory on and make amends, you know. Yeah, but you know what they did? They sold me a big book. Seems like with all it cost, they could have given me one. But they sold me a big book. And they introduced me to you. They took me to meetings. They introduced me to you. And I started meeting people that I knew were like me. And they weren't drinking. And they were happy about it. That actually wasn't my first experience with AA. My first experience was some people coming into the treatment center. And it's funny. Here's the first thing I remember. And I don't know if this is the first thing that was said to me. It's the first thing I remember. Some guy looked at me and he said, don't worry. He said, God can keep you sober forever. And I remember thinking, you think that's good news? Because I'll tell you right now, man, I don't know about you guys, I can really relate to what Dr. Silkworth wrote here where he said, he's talking about a sober alcoholic. And he says, this describes me so well when I'm sober. He says they're restless, irritable, and discontented. First read that, I was like, man, that's putting it pretty lightly. That's a good day. But like restless is like, I don't know where I want to be, but it ain't here. Like, I got to go. That's what it was like for me so much. I got to go. I got to get out of here. I got to get out of this meeting. I got to get out of this town. I got to get out of this job. I got to get out of this whatever. I got to get out of here. It says irritable. My mom used to be irritable a lot. I hate that word. I'm not irritable, but a lot of times I do feel like I'm surrounded by idiots. You guys ever feel that way? Remember I was a couple years in AA and this guy, this newcomer, was really struggling in my home group, and he called me up and he's like, I just can't stay in AA anymore. I can't handle it, man. I'm just surrounded all the time by idiots. And I don't know where this came from, right? I don't know where it came from. I think God works through us a lot when we're trying to talk to others. And I said, you know what? I said, man, you're right. You are surrounded by idiots. And you're one of them. And he was like, oh, yeah. Irritable, yeah. Everybody's bugging me, you know. My little daughter's there. And I just wish she'd shut up and go to bed or something. I love her, but God, I wish she'd go away, you know. People are like standing up doing something. I'm thinking, can't you sit down and relax? People are sitting down. I'm like, can't you get up and do something? You know, everybody's bugging me. I'm restless, irritable, and I'm discontented, man. This is the big one for me. When I'm not drinking, when I'm sober, I'm discontented. the best way I can describe that is it's like, another day. What are we going to do today? I don't know, like go to work, come home, watch the news, go to bed early. It just all sounds terrible. I'm just bored out of my mind. It's like if somebody said, so what are you doing today, Chad? I'd say, I don't know, man. I'm not drinking. Again. But that's not the end of that sentence. See, this describes me so well because it says I'm restless, irritable, and discontented unless I can again experience a sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks. I know how to fix I got like a superpower, man. I can fix restless, irritable, and discontented just like that. A couple drinks. I get a couple drinks in me. I'm no longer restless. I don't care where I'm at, man. It's a place to be. I'm no longer irritable. I kind of start liking you guys. I might even buy you a drink. And I'm no longer discontented, man. The world opens up to me. It's in color now. It's like if someone says, what are you doing today, Chad? I don't know, man. Drinking and something. It's just a whole different outlook, you know? And that's exactly how I felt when that guy told me God can keep you sober forever. And hopefully I'll get to this before we get done, but if you're new in here, I can tell you this, man. It's possible in this program through doing this work to stay sober and be happy. And even on the days that aren't happy, to be okay. What a gift that is. Because I can tell you right now, I hadn't been staying sober for 20 years. I've been working an AA program for 20 years, and sobriety's been given to me as like a byproduct. I don't know what's worse, man, drinking for 20 years or not drinking for 20 years. Whew. That's rough. I don't have to do either one. What a gift. The problem's been removed. So they introduced me to meet my people, and this is what I hear. I hear, Chad, go to a lot of meetings, 90 meetings in 90 days. Man, somewhere in that treatment center, I decided I never wanted to drink again. I was tired of living that way. I'd been trying to stop drinking for years. I just never wanted to drink again. I wanted to do this thing. Somebody probably told me to work the steps, but I didn't hear that part. I used to say they weren't where I went, they weren't telling me to work the steps. I bet somebody was saying work the steps. I just wasn't hearing it, you know. But I did hear go get in the middle of AA, and that's what I did. I got out of that little treatment center. I moved to Oklahoma City. I got in the middle of AA. I started showing up early, setting up chairs, staying late, cleaning out ashtrays, making coffee, greeting people. I love the greeting line at this meeting. I love that stuff. I love getting involved in that. The conversations that you had before and after. I was hanging out with members of the group. My life revolved around being a sober member of AA. I was chairing meetings. I was on all the committees. We were constantly doing fundraisers because the groups that I went to didn't get enough money in the basket to pay their bills. So we were always trying to sell something. I'm pretty sure we were breaking traditions, but you know. But I was right in the middle. I put my heart and soul into being a member of AA. And I stayed sober and I stayed sick. Very sick. And then something started to change. As I was getting close to a year of sobriety, I was getting tired of it. I'm tired of AA. I can tell you this, man, you hang around AA for long enough without working a program, you guys will drive somebody to drink. We are a self-centered bunch. I love when the guy's picking up his 90-day chip and he says, I just love it here because no one judges me. I'm like, dude, this whole room is judging you right now. Come on, man. Nothing personal. We can't help it. Trust me, we're judging ourselves harder than we're judging you. Yeah. Come join us. Yeah. I love AA, man. I do love AA. But I was ready to leave AA. I was ready to leave, man. I was had about enough. I'd been sober almost a year. I didn't really think I needed this anymore. I felt pretty normal. And then I met this guy. This guy moved to Oklahoma City from Las Vegas. He was an out-of-town guy, and I did what I was supposed to do. I welcomed him after the meeting and talked to him for a little while, and that short conversation turned into about a 2-hour talk on the front steps of that meeting. And sitting there in that 2 hours, he 12-stepped me, and I didn't know that's what he was doing, but that's what he did. And he helped me to understand what was really wrong with me. He gave me that clear understanding of alcoholism based on 2 things. He was telling me his experience, and I was laying it up against mine. And he didn't share his experience, strength, and hope with me. He shared his experience and knowledge. He shared his experience and his knowledge. And thank God for that. He gave me the knowledge of what it means to be an alcoholic based on his experience, and it deeply disturbed me, and I didn't feel hope. I felt hopeless. And that's right where he needed me to be, was hopeless. He gave me what we call a fatal dose of alcoholism. And he let me sit there in silence for a little while and let this realization come upon me that sobriety was not guaranteed for me. That I was about to walk out of AA thinking I was okay, and I was probably going to drink again. Because I saw it happen all the time, but I didn't think it was going to happen to me. And after he let me sit there for a while and stew on that, then he said, as if it were some new idea, he said, "Chad, you know what I think you need?" It's like, no, Dave, what do I need? He said, "You need a spiritual awakening as a result of the 12 steps." And then it hit me. It's like I got that reading memorized, man. I go to a lot of meetings. Yeah, work the steps. And he became my sponsor, and we worked the steps together, and I had an experience with a power that I didn't believe in. I don't know about you guys, but I came in very agnostic, and let's just say atheist. Let's call it what it is, man. I came in atheist. I thought anything spiritual was stupid. Some of you guys show up here and somebody tells you it's a spiritual solution and we're going to be talking about God, and you're like, cool, bring it on. And some of you are more like me, and you show up and someone says the word God and you're like, come on. It's not like I didn't like grow up in a church and have a resentment against it or anything. I just thought it was all dumb. I thought meditation was not anything. As a matter of fact, here's what it was like for me. I used to sit in church. I would sit in church as a little kid. I was pretty smart when I was a little kid. I don't know what happened. I swear, man, when I was like 13, I used to be sitting around adults and I'd be thinking, come on, catch on. I never think that anymore. I'm like, what now? But I remember being a little kid sitting in church and hearing the preacher talk, and I remember looking around thinking, you people really believe this stuff? Come on. And that's when I brought into AA. I thought it was all nonsense. And I had a big step 2 problem. Anybody in here ever have a step 2 problem? Okay, cool. Yeah, well, I like to say things that make people mad sometimes. So here's one of them. If you've got a step 2 problem that keeps you from doing the work in this program, it's not a step 2 problem. It's a step 1 problem. Because if I am clear that I'm alcoholic and I am clear on what it means to be alcoholic, I'll take a step 2 problem right through the rest of the work. I mean, to tell you the truth, I got a problem with a few of these steps. I got a problem right off the bat with this idea of sobriety. I got a problem with it. Especially making these amends. Come on, I got a problem with a lot of this stuff, but I'm going to do it because I don't ever want to drink again. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit and talk about a couple things and wrap this up. I moved down to Austin, Texas when I had 5 years, and I met a whole new level of AA. And it took me to a new level anyway. I met my sponsor and his wife, and I got involved in the primary purpose group, and I got to sit around the table with a man named Mark Houston. You guys ever heard of Mark Houston? You know who he is? Cool. I tell you what, my sponsor says this all the time, and I agree 100% with it. If you get nothing else out of my talk up here except for this, listen to some Mark Houston. This guy, the message that he brought changed the entire course of recovery in that Austin, Texas area and in a lot of places around AA. And he's not the only one. He's just the name I'm throwing at you. This book came alive for me. It came alive for me. I learned a lot of new things. I learned a clear, concise way to describe alcoholism, which is the greatest gift I can give the still suffering alcoholic. The absolute greatest gift I could give someone who suffers from alcoholism is a clear, concise understanding of what's wrong with them. I learned that. I also learned that the third step is not just a prayer. I learned that there's a couple of pages leading up to that prayer that are immensely important. See, here's what I learned about it. I learned from the first step, I find out that I've got this hopeless, fatal illness called alcoholism. It's going to kill me, and I can't do anything about it. In the second step, I learned there is an answer to it. It's a spiritual experience. And then in the third step, I learned that I can't have a spiritual experience because I'm blocked. I'm blocked by my efforts to live on self-will and run the show myself. See, what I find out there is that I don't really even have a relationship with life in God's world. I have a relationship with the way I think life should be, and I'm obsessed with it. All I ever think about is if this was like this and this were like, I'm obsessed with my preferences. Think about that for a minute. How often are you thinking about, well, I like this better than this, and I like country music from the 90s, but not the mainstream stuff. I like the stuff that they play. I mean, I'm just constantly, it's everything. I like this, I don't like that. I'm obsessed. And that's minor stuff. But I'm talking about when it comes to people, when it comes to places, everything. I'm just obsessed with how I think things ought to be and how I ought to be. Bill says I'm like an actor who wants to run the whole show. Again, I think that's an understatement. But yeah, absolutely. The point there is that I'm not the director, I'm the actor. And then that's what I'm carrying in, this failure of self-will, this fact that I'm under the delusion that I can be satisfied and happy if I can just manage everything in this life to suit me. It's like I gave my mind a job. Somewhere in my life, I don't know when it happened, but I said, okay, mind, here's your new job. Figure out how to arrange life where I never have to experience any discomfort or any inconvenience. And my mind's been trying ever since. And I'm frustrated. I'm like, mind, shut up. And my mind's going, bro, you gave me this job. I'm just trying to figure it out. And you know what? It works really hard right about bedtime. Yeah. I can't experience God while I'm playing God. That's what I learned in the third step. So it's not that I got to go out and find God. It's that I've got to get free of this self-will. And as my efforts to live on self-will decrease, my God consciousness goes up. Automatically. It's not about believing in God. It's about experiencing God through a reduction in my self-centeredness. That's how we find God in AA. I learned about practicing the disciplines of steps 10 and 11 on a consistent basis in a clear manner. Really going deep in these steps and learning to live on a spiritual basis. And it is possible for an obstinate, arrogant, agnostic, self-centered alcoholic like me to live life on a spiritual basis if I just follow the instructions. And the last thing I learned, I'm going to run through this real quick and then get down from here. I had maybe one, maybe two sponsees at a time was the most I'd ever had. I had about 5 years when I moved down to Austin. I never had more than two sponsees. Usually I had one or I had none. And I was told when I got down there, Chad, that ain't going to cut it. You're missing out. You need to be sponsoring guys, taking people through the steps. I was like, well, I just don't have that many people ask me. And they said, oh, you got to go find them. And I said, nah, man, this is a program of attraction, not promotion. Well, here's what I was told. That's our public relations policy, not our 12th step policy. If you want to experience God, go find some people to help. So I went on a mission. I made it my job. I took advantage of every opportunity to carry the message that I could find. I went into jails and treatment centers and hospitals and halfway houses and all that stuff. I'd go to beginners meetings. I started learning how to 12-step guys. It tells you exactly how to do it on page 91 in our big book. Right in the middle of the page, it starts out with see your man alone if possible. It tells you exactly how to do it. I started doing that, and I started to build up sponsees, and my conversations with my sponsor changed. They went from, I'm really having a hard time with this, and she didn't text me back, and I'm scared about this, to, I've got a guy, and he's having this problem. What do you think I should tell him? Or how can I approach this guy? And I became much more concerned about people that I could help than I did about me. And guess what? When I became less concerned about my problems, they started getting magically solved. How cool is that? I love adventure. I love rock climbing. I love hiking and camping and paddleboarding. And I think I'm too old to learn to surf. I live on the beach now. My balance is terrible. But I think it'd be fun to try anyway. I could crash a lot. I just love adventure. I don't just work this program to stay sober. I work this program because I love what I get. And what I get is to live on this path of spiritual growth. And this path of spiritual growth has turned out to be the biggest adventure of all. Thank you, guys.
Chad, thank you so much for coming out here and sharing just an incredible message of hope and recovery with our group tonight. We're over time, so I'll wrap it up here. There's always a meeting before the meeting. Feel free to show up, help out with the group. A lot of moving parts to keep the group going. So if you want to show up, help out with some service work, you want to help out after the meeting, we probably have to put some chairs away. We're going to have to put away these chairs in the front here and on the sides. The one on the tables will stay right where they are. It's customary for us to thank our speakers. They come here on their own time and expense to come here and share a message with us, so we usually form a line and thank our speakers personally. Thank you for everybody helping out with the meeting. Thank you to our readers. Thank you for the help in the kitchen, and let's give one more round of applause for Chad. And if you do care to join us, we have a nice way of closing.